So good morning students. Today this is class for BSc SEM, that is cell biology. Okay. So here today we will continue with the cell theory. In the last class we had studied the characteristic features of cell theory. Next today we will go for the next cell theory, that the name is protoplasm theory. Okay. What it is? Second theory, that it is the protoplasm theory. This is the second theory in the cell theory. What it is? That is the protoplasm theory. So here, in the middle of 19th century, whatever the discovery of the cell, so whatever the statements of the cell we had already studied. Now we will go for the next topic, that is the protoplasm theory. When it get discovered. So let's see that one first. In the middle of 19th century, greater emphasis was given to the cell wall. Okay, greater importance in the middle of 19th century. In the middle of 19th century, the greater importance was given for cell wall. Okay, the greater importance was given for the cell wall. Cell wall, which is one of the phenomena present only in the plant cell, not in the animal cell. Okay, and less to the cellular content. They had given the greater importance to what? Cell wall, and less important to what? Cellular content. The other cellular products or the other cell organelles, they had not given so much of importance, and they mostly focused on what? On the cell wall. Okay, by that only, by focusing, by giving an importance to the cell wall, some of the scientists worked and they had found that, what is that? That is the protoplasm theory. So let's see one by one who were the persons who discovered this protoplasm theory, about the cell wall, about the cell membrane. So let's see that one. Soon biologist, the cell biologist. Next, let's see here. Some of the cell biologists recognizes the importance of some juicy material in the cell. Here, some of the cell biologists recognizes the importance of some, what is that particular product over here means it is somewhat juicy material. Okay, it is somewhat just like a juice or liquid substance. Okay, so importance of juicy or slimy content of the cell. Juicy or slimy. Slimy means which is viscous, jelly-like. Okay, juicy or slimy content of cell. They had given the importance to what? To the juicy or slimy content of the cell. Okay, so looking at that, here some of the scientists, the name of that scientist in 1835, in the year 1835. The name of the scientist is Felix Dujardin. What was the name of that particular scientist or the cell biologist? That is the Felix Dujardin. So here, this scientist who termed the jelly-like material within the protozoan. First, this was the person who had given the term the jelly-like material. Okay, this person given the term to that particular jelly-like material. Okay, term to jelly-like material in which organism he found that he recognized that jelly-like material himself in protozoans. Okay, in protozoans. Okay, so in protozoan, whatever the jelly-like material was there, and he gave a term. The term to that particular jelly-like material he gave as the sarcode. What is the term they had given? That it is a sarcode. This is the term which was given to that particular slimy or jelly-like material. Okay, so the next term. In 1835, H1 Mohal, in year 1835, in the same year, one more scientist, cell biologist, that is H1 Mohal. He was the biologist who described the cell division. Okay, who described the cell division. Okay, the next to that, one more scientist whose name is in 1839, the biologist, the name of that particular biologist in 1839, the name of that particular biologist is J.E. Purkinje. J.E. Purkinje, he coined the term protoplasm. Who coined the term first protoplasm? That is J.E. Purkinje. Coined the term protoplasm. Okay, who had first given the term or coined the term protoplasm means that is the J.E. Purkinje. Okay, so here, for what reason he had introduced discovered the term protoplasm means to know the cellular contents, to describe the contents of the cell. For what reason he had coined the term protoplasm? To describe the content of the cell. To describe the content of the cell. For this reason, and especially in the animal embryo, he had described that particular jelly-like material. See here, this is the cell. Okay, around this cell or this cell is enveloped by what? By some membrane. Okay, so focusing on this membrane or whatever the envelope, that here, that is the first of all they focused on the cell wall. Okay, then some of the scientists has given that cell is Gujarati. This cell wall or this envelope, it is somewhat in a jelly-like substance. Okay, so he had given that, he had told that this jelly-like substance in protozoan, which is one of the unicellular organisms. Okay, so that in protozoan, that jelly-like material is given with the term as the sarcode. Okay, after that, in 1835, H1 Mohal described the cell division. That cell division is also associated with the cell wall or the cell membrane, which is enveloping to this cell. The next, in 1839, J.E. Purkinje coined the term protoplasm. Protoplasm means what? That is the living content of the cell. Whatever the living content of the cell is there, we can give a term, that is the protoplasm. That term, who was that person who had first given the term that protoplasm means, that is the J.E. Purkinje. For what reason? To describe the content of the living content of the cell. Okay, the next we will go for the next some other scientists, their discovery in protoplasm theory. Let's see here. Next person in the protoplasm theory, Max Schultz. Max Schultz in the year 1861. In 1861, what he had told means established similarity between the sarcode and the protoplasm of animal cell and the plant cell. Okay, the Max Schultz in the year 1861 had established the similarity between sarcode and plant and animal cell. What he told means that sarcode, to whom they had given the name sarcode over here, means that is to the jelly-like substances in the protozoan. Here, this is the jelly-like substances in whom this is jelly-like substance to which they had given the term sarcode. Okay, so this was the person who had shown, who had recognized what and established what, that is there is a similarity, means whatever the sarcode is there and whatever the protoplasm of sarcode and protoplasm of plant and animal cell. Means what he told means if this is the protozoan and this is the jelly-like substance. Okay, so here this jelly-like substance in the protozoan they had given the term sarcode. Okay, so this jelly-like substance in the plant cell and in the animal cell, in both of them and in three of them it is similar, that is in protozoan, animal cell and the plant cell. In three of them the protoplasm will be similar. Who established that similarity between the protoplasm of protozoan, plant cell and animal cell means Max Schultz. Okay, then next and thus offering a theory which later on was improved. See, on this basis of this discovery only, the theory, that is the protoplasm theory, was accepted, and this theory was called as the protoplasm theory. And who gave the term protoplasm theory to this statement means protoplasm theory. So who was the person who gave the described the protoplasm theory means O. Hartwig. O. Hartwig in the year 1892. He was the person who described the protoplasm theory on the basis of what? On the basis of similarity between the sarcode and protoplasm of plant cell and animal cell. So, next Next, see what this protoplasm theory explains. Till now we had discussed about the discovery of the protoplasm theory. So let's see here. See, protoplasm theory holds that what this protoplasm theory is telling or stating means it holds that all living matter out of which animal and plants are formed is the protoplasm. Protoplasm means all living matter in cell. Okay, living matter in plant and animal cell. That living matter in the plant and animal cell, we can call it as the protoplasm. Okay, here the cell is the accumulation of substances or protoplasm which is limited in space by an outer membrane. Here you see the cell is an accumulation of living substance. Cell is an accumulation of living substance. Okay, it is an accumulation of living substance or protoplasm. Living substance in the cells, we can call it as the protoplasm. So, in the cell, whatever the living substance or the protoplasm will be there, which is limited in a space. This protoplasm is located or present in a limited space. Here you see, in a limited space. Okay, limited space, and this space is limited by an outer membrane. By outer membrane, and this particular space, that limited space, which is enveloped by an outer membrane, in that there will be presence of what? Nucleus. Nucleus is present. Okay, the next the protoplasm which is filled in nucleus. See here, this is the membrane, outer membrane. Okay, and full here there is a presence of living substance. Okay, that is the protoplasm what we are calling. Okay, this is the plasma membrane, this is also living substance, and this is the cytoplasm, that is also living substance. So here plasma membrane and cytoplasm, we can call it as the protoplasm, that is the living matter in the cell. This protoplasm is accumulated in the cell by a limited boundary, and in that limited space there is a presence of what? Nucleus. This is the nucleus, and this nucleus also has a protoplasm. What it has? It is also filled, or the protoplasm which is filled. See here, this is the protoplasm of nucleus, or protoplasm which is filled inside the nucleus. This is the protoplasm which is filled inside the nucleus, and this protoplasm is known as the nucleoplasm. What it is known as? It is known as the nucleoplasm. What do you mean by nucleoplasm? The protoplasm, here I will write protoplasm which is filled inside the nucleus, and that protoplasm which is present inside the nucleus, that we can call it as the nucleoplasm. Okay, what it is? That it is the nucleoplasm, and here and that exists between the nucleus and the plasma membrane. See here, all over this is the nucleus and this is the plasma membrane. Nucleus and the plasma membrane. Here, whatever the space or the area here you see, which is accumulated by a protoplasm in between this is the nucleus and this is the plasma membrane. So whatever the area which is accumulated by living substance in between the nucleus and the plasma membrane, to this we can call it as the cytoplasm. What we can call? We can call it as the cytoplasm. Okay. Here we see this is the nucleus which is filled with the living substance, that is the protoplasm, to which we are calling it as the nucleoplasm. Okay, so this is the nucleoplasm and which is surrounded by a boundary, that we are calling it as the nucleus. Okay, then that nucleus and whatever the outer membrane, which we are calling it as the plasma membrane. Okay, plasma membrane, it is also one of the living matter in the cell. So here the plasma membrane, in between, in the center there will be presence of nucleus. Okay, so here whatever the space area in between the plasma membrane and the nucleus, which is accumulated by a living material, to that we can call it as the cytoplasm. What we can call? We can call it as the cytoplasm, where all metabolic activities or the cellular activities of the cell is going to take place. Okay, so this is about what? About the protoplasm theory. The last theory is there, that is known as the organismal theory. This is the last topic of this chapter, that is cell theory. The last theory, that it is the organismal theory. Third theory in this chapter, that it is the organismal theory. Third theory is the Organismal theory. Organismal theory. So let's see about this third theory, organismal theory. Here, this theory holds that cell body or that body of multicellular organism, that the body of multicellular organisms is a continuous mass of protoplasm. Is a continuous mass of protoplasm. What it is? In the organismal theory, what it holds, what it's trying to state means that the body of multicellular organism, that is especially the plant cell, animal cell. Okay, here the body is a continuous mass of protoplasm. Okay, it is made up of a continuous mass of living substance. What it is saying is a continuous mass of protoplasm. Okay, so into small centers, continuous mass of protoplasm, but into a mass of which remains divided incompletely. This continuous mass of protoplasm which remains divided incompletely into small centers, and that incompletely divided small centers we can call it as the cells. Here, what he is telling in this theory means it is a continuous mass of protoplasm. That continuous mass of protoplasm which remains divided incompletely. Okay, that into a small centers. Okay, and that small centers are the cells. Cells are present for various biological activities in the multicellular bodies or the multicellular organism. So here the multicellular organism is highly differentiated. Multicellular organisms are highly differentiated. Differentiated protoplasmic individual. Protoplasmic individual. Okay, so here differing with a unicellular protozoan. See here, whatever the multicellular organisms are there, their protoplasm is differing with the protozoa or unicellular protozoa in their size and degree of differentiation of protoplasm. So the differentiation involves separation of protoplasm into subordinate semi-independent compartments, and that compartments we can call it as the cells. So see here, this is the statement about the organismal theory, and here they are explaining how the cells are, what do you mean by cells, how they are describing in the organismal, especially in the multicellular organism. So next, let's see. What they are trying to tell me. So, the differentiation of protoplasm between the multicellular organism and unicellular organism is based on what? So, let's see. The differentiation involves separation of protoplasm. The differentiation involves the separation of protoplasm into subordinate semi-independent compartments. Into subordinate semi-independent compartments, and that so-called compartments are called as the cells. Okay, and that compartments which can be called as the cells. Okay, so this organismal theory is applied to the only to the multicellular organisms, not to the, and it should be on multicellular organisms, not should be on unicellular, and this theory fails on whom, or this theory fails to a certain position of viruses. Here, this theory cannot describe on what, or cannot apply to what, to the viruses. Okay, so this is about the cell theory, protoplasm theory, then next organismal theory. Okay, the next here in this first unit, the next topic is that it is the differences of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. What it is? Differences of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So till now what we studied? We had studied about the cell theory. In the cell theory, we had discussed the discovery of the cell theory and discovery of some of the cells and cell organelles. Okay, after that we had given the statements on the cell theory, their applications on the animals, not only on the animals, on the organisms. Okay, except that we had also told the second theory, that is about the protoplasm theory. That means the living substances in the multicellular and unicellular organisms. Lastly, we had given the organismal theory, in which we had described how these organisms are made up of what? Cells into a compartments. Okay, so next we will continue with the second unit, that is the second topic of the first chapter, differences of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So that we will discuss in the next class. Okay, thank you.